Well, here we are one more time. We did Devil's Bride. We did A Rake's Vow. We did A Scandal's Bride. We went and did a prequel to find out what happened with the parents because you can't read the parents until you've read Scandal because they spoil each other. Last week we learned about Demon and Felicity and how they were going to help her, Dylan, get out from the horse racketing thing that the men wanted to kill him. You know, gambling situation. He got involved, he got over his head. This week, we are reading about Gabriel Sinster, the angel of the family. Sorta, kinda. When a mysterious lady, her face hidden by a black veil, begs Gabriel Sinster for help, he cannot refuse her plea. Despite her disguise, Gabriel finds the woman alluring, and he is powerless to deny her. But he exacts a payment as only a Sinster could demand. With each piece of information he uncovers, she must pay him with a kiss. Lady Althea Morellen knows Gabriel is intrigued, but despite the sparks that fly between them, they have never passed a civil moment together. Yet, as the stakes get higher, so does Gabriel's desire for payment. And with each overpowering kiss, each passionate embrace, Althea knows she's gonna have to tell him who she is. Because in real life, they hate each other. They're forever feuding, you know. What's that word? When you know somebody, you have a relationship where you can just look at them and they get angry at you, or you have this little conflict going, this little, kidding or joshing type situation where if you just say one word, the person gets mad, or you look at them and they get mad, and they just have this kind of relationship. So, Gabriel, and there's your little family tree. There's one on her website. I tried printing it out, it didn't work. This is April 17th, 1820. Disaster stared in her face. Again, seated at her desk in the library of Morellen Park, Alethea Morellen gazed at the letter she held, barely seeing the precise script of her family's agent. The substance of the missive was burned in her brain. Its last paragraph read, "I fear, my dear, that my sentiments concur with yours. I see no evidence that we have made any mistake." No mistake, she suspected, virtually expected that would be the case, yet exhaling, Althea laid the letter down. Her hand shook. A youthful cheer reached her bone on the breeze wafting through the long windows. She hesitated, then stood and glided to the French window standing open to the south lawn. On the rolling expanse separating the terrace from the ornamental lake, her stepbrothers and stepsisters played on the lawn. The entire household was currently in throes of preparing to move to London so Mary and Alice could be introduced to the ton. Nevertheless, both girls threw themselves into the game, ringlets framing innocently happy faces, the serious business of their come-outs in no way dampening in their simple pleasures. Flushing with a grin, Althea lobbed the ball over the girls' heads. Open-mouthed, they watched it soar past. With a gurgling laugh, Augusta pounced, grabbed the ball, and raced down the slope. Flushing Althea conspicuous of grins, Mary called after Augusta. Alice cheered, and both set out in pursuit. Picking up the letter again, she sat and reread it. It had arrived in reply to an urgent missive from her dispatch post-haste to London 3 days before. 3 days before, when her world had, for the second time in her life, been rocked to the foundations. While dusting her father's room, a maid discovered a legal document stuffed inside a large vase. Luckily, the girl had had the wit to take the paper to the housekeeper, and Mrs. Figgs had immediately bustled it into the library and laid it before her. Satisfied she'd missed nothing in Wiggs' reply, Althea set his letter aside. She glanced straight to the left desk drawer where the wretched document at the heart of the matter lay, a promissory note. She didn't need to read it again. Every last detail was etched in her brain. The note committed the Earl of Meredith to pay call upon a sum that exceeded the percent total of the earldom. In return, the Earl would receive a handsome percentage of the profits realized by the Central East Africa Gold Company. There was, of course, no guarantee such profits would ever materialize, and neither she nor Wiggs nor any of his peers had ever heard of a Central East Africa Gold Company. He got swindled. He got taken. Huge, massive, big time. And now she's in desperate need of funds. She's going to lose everything. And her sisters are going to have a come out. And she's got nothing. They're going to end up on the streets due to the promissory note. So in the middle of the night, in Gabriel got a note from an unknown person requesting assistance. So at 3 o'clock in the morning, he's at St. George's. That was what the note had said. He had been half inclined to set it aside. A poor joke, assuredly, but something in the words had tweaked an impulse more powerful than curiosity. The note had been penned in a desperation, although despite close analysis, he couldn't see why he was so sure of that. The mysterious countess, whoever she was, had written simply and requesting this meeting so she could explain her need for his aid. So he was here, where was she? On the thought the city's bells tolled, the reverberations stirring the heavy blanket of the night. Not all the bell towers told the night watches, even did to set up a strange cadence, a pattern of sound repeated in different registers. And she appeared, stepping from the deep shadows about the door, mist clinging to her skirts as she turned slowly regaling to face him. She was cloaked and veiled, as impenetrable, secret, and mysterious as the night. Why was she here? Why was she in a veil? Why wasn't she revealing her identity to him? Because she knows him, but she doesn't. She disguises her voice a little bit, and Gabriel doesn't put it together. Good morning, Mr. Sinister. Thank you for coming. Your note said you needed my help. I do. My family does. Your family? My step family, I should say. Perhaps we better define what your problem is and why you think I can help. You can help. I would never have asked to meet you. Would never reveal what I'm about to tell you if I didn't know you could help. My problem concerns a promissory note signed by my late husband. Late husband? I'm a widow. How long ago did your husband die? Over a year ago. So his estate has been probated. Yes, the title and estate are now with my stepson Charles. Stepson? I was my husband's second wife. We were married some years ago for him. It was a very late second marriage. He was ill for some time before his death. All his children were by his first wife. Am I to understand that you've taken your late husband's children under your wing? Yes, I consider their welfare my responsibility. It's because of them that I am seeking your aid. You mentioned a promissory note. I should explain that my husband had a weakness for engaging in speculative ventures. Over his last years, the family agent and I endeavored to keep his investment shames to a minimum, in which endeavors we were largely successful. However, 3 weeks ago, a maid stumbled on a legal paper tucked away and clearly forgotten. It was a promissory note. To which company? The Central East Africa Gold Company. Have you heard of it? Not a whisper. Neither has our agent nor any of his colleagues. The company address should be on the note. It's not, but the name of the firm of solicitors who drew up the document. This note, do you have it? And she shows it to him. Despite straining his eyes, he caught not a glimpse of the gown beneath her voluminous cloak. Her hands, too, were covered, encased in leather gloves long enough to reach the cuffs of her sleeves. You don't need to know the family's name. Why not? That will become evident when you read the note. This appears to be legal. He read it again, then looked up. The investment is certainly large, and given its speculative, therefore constitute a very great risk. If the company had not been fully investigated and appropriately vouched for, then the investment was certainly unwise. I do not, however, see your problem. The problem lies in the fact that the amount promised is considerably more than the present total worth of the earldom. Gabriel looked again at the written amount on the note and swiftly recalculated. If this sum will clean out the earldom's coffers, then precisely. I mentioned that my husband was fond of speculating. The family has for more than a decade existed on the very brink of financial ruin. From before I married into it. After our marriage, I discovered the truth. After that, I oversaw all financial matters. Between us, my husband's agent and I were able to hold things together and keep the family above water. That note, however, would be the end. Our problem in a nutshell is that the note does indeed appear legit, in which case, if it executed and the money called in, the family will be bankrupt. Why, which is why you don't wish me to know your name. You know the hot ton. We move in the same circles. If any hint of our financial straits, even leaving the aside of the note, was to come common knowledge, the family would be in great social ruin. The call to arms was a physical tug. Gabriel shifted. Children. You mentioned Charles, the youthful Earl. What others? There are two girls, Maria and Alicia. We're in town now because they're to be presented. I saved for years so that they could have their come-outs. And there are two others still in the schoolroom. An older cousin, Serafina. She's part of the family too. Gabriel listened more to her tone than her words. Devotion sounded clearly, the caring, the commitment, the anxiety. Whatever else the Countess was concealing, she couldn't hide that. You didn't say why you thought I could help. We, our agent, and I believe the company is a fraud, a venture undertaken purely in milk funds from gullible investors. The note itself is suspicious in that neither the company's address nor its principals are noted. There's also the fact that a legitimate speculative company accepting a promissory note for such an amount would have sought some verification that the amount could indeed be paid. No check was made. It would have been referred to our agent. As you might imagine, our bank has been in close touch with him for years. We checked as far as we can without raising suspicion and found nothing to change our view. The Central East Africa Gold Company looks like a fraud. And if that's so, then we can gather enough evidence to prove it and present the evidence to the Chancery Court. The promissory note could be declared invalid, but we must succeed before the note is executed, and it's already over a year since it was signed. Why me? You've built something of a reputation for exposing fraudulent shames. And you're a sinster. Why does that matter? Because sinsters like challenges. True. And because I know I can entrust the family secret to a sinster. If you agree to help, I must ask you swear that you will not at any time seek to identify me or my family. And if you don't agree to help, I know I can trust you not to mention this meeting or anything else to deduce from it to anyone. Um, if I agreed to help you, where do you imagine we would start? The question was out before he considered. Once he had said it, he inwardly raised his brow at the we. The company's solicitors, or at least the ones who drew up the note, Thorough and Brown. Their names on the note, but not their address. No, but if they're a legitimate firm, they must be, don't you think? Then they should be easy to trace. I have done that myself, but you didn't think your agent would approve of what you have in mind once you discover the address, so you didn't want him to ask him. Precisely. I imagine some form of search required. I doubt a legitimate firm of solicitors will volunteer information on one of their clients. He'd know once he located Thorough and Brown. We'll need to learn who the principals of the company are and learn the details of the company's business. Prospective business. He shot her a look. You do realize that any investigating risk alerting the company's principals. If the company is the sham you think it is, then any hint of too close interest from anyone, particularly and especially me, will activate the call on the promised funds. That's how swindlers will react. They grab what they got and disappear before anyone can learn too much. Very well. If you made the decision to investigate the company, then yes, I will help you. And you swear, before God, I swear, on your name as a sister, on my name as a sister, that I will not seek to identify you or your family. All right? When a gentleman reaches agreement, they usually shake hands. He heard her draw in breath. I thought we were going to shake hands. You're no gentleman. When a gentleman and a lady seal a pact, they do it like this, and he kisses her passionately. And she feels it in her little bonesy wonesies and her toesy woesies. And she just, melts in his arms. Lifting Lips lifting self-depreciating, Gabriel stepped down from the porch, drawing his cloak about him. He set out to walk the short distance to his horse. He felt energized, ready to take on the world. The previous morning, before the Countess's note arrived, he had been sitting morsely over his coffee, wondering how to extract himself from the mirror of disaffected boredom in which he had sunk. He considered every enterprise, every possibility, endeavor, entertainment. None had awakened the smallest spark of interest. The Countess' note did it. It aroused his curiosity. It gave him a purpose. It gave him something to do. So, and he resisted for a while. And it eats him alive that he resists it for a while, but he lives by his word not to try to investigate who this woman is, because he can find out easily in the peerage book and some other stuff that arranges, and it drives you crazy. You're sitting there going, it's right there, she's right there, you see her at the ton stuff, you see her here, you see her here, and he starts to recognize her voice, and it's just, you're waiting for him to find out who she is and make that connection, and you're just waiting, and it drives you bonkers. So then she reports home to her family and tells them how it went. So, you'll have to read the book to find out how it goes, how they find the company, the fraudulent company. I think someone gets killed in the office, and they're investigating. They almost get caught a couple of times in their shames. And once he figures out who she is, they start working more together on this issue. And they end up, falling in love. It is a love story. So that is Gabriel's thing. She knows who she's dealing with, but it takes him a while to figure out who he's dealing with, because he promised on his sinister word not to try and find out who she is, but eventually he does. And it takes it irritating lungs, and you're sitting there going, come on, hurry up. And it takes a while. So, we could use this as one of the identity ones too, where we started with Devil, because Honoria didn't know who Devil was in the beginning. So that is book 5 in our Sinsters. So please tune in next week as we do Alistair's or Lucifer's. And I hope you have a good day, and I hope you like and subscribe. Have a good one.